Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Since 1945, 400,000 people have undergone successful hernia operations at the Shouldice Hospital in Thornhill. That's just north of Toronto. This year, an additional 6,500 patients will undergo complete pre-prep procedures. Sit down, listen to this, sit down to a gourmet dinner. Then the next day, have your hernia repaired by doctors acknowledged as the best hernia surgeons in the world. World famous. The Shouldice Hospital is world famous. Patients come from around the world to have their hernias repaired at the Shouldice Clinic. It's a special Shouldice procedure that does not use wire mesh, which apparently is still being used in many hospitals other than the Shouldice Hospital. So you go in, get this. If you need a hernia operation, let's say at the Civic, the wait time probably will be 6 to 8 months. You're in considerable pain and probably some considerable danger of damaging your body. But that's the way the situation is. Long waits, very long waits. However, if you go to the Shouldice private hospital, I forgot to mention, it is a private hospital. The Shouldice Hospital is the only private hospital legally operated in Ontario. You might ask yourself why. It specializes in hernias. So get this. As I say, you want a hernia operation, you need one. Go to the Civic. The wait could be 6 to 8 months. You're in pain. You walk into the Shouldice Clinic. There is a free assessment available for you. You make an appointment, probably get an appointment the next day or certainly within a day or two, absolutely free assessment. They go through your whole health situation. The only way that you may be turned down is if you are grossly overweight, in which case they will tell you before we will operate, you must lose some weight. Other than that, they will perform. As I say, since 1945, 400,000 patients. Don't forget, that's 400,000 patients who did not show up at regular hospitals. They went to the Shouldice private hospital. So get this, you walk in, you off the street, make an appointment, and it could very well be next day. You will come. They'll give you all sorts of tests and so forth. Set up an appointment, probably within 2 or 3 days. You show up in appointed time at that time. They give you more tests, blood tests, et cetera, make sure that, and go through the whole procedure. Then you go to a meeting with all other patients who will be operated on the next day. And once again, they are explained exactly what it is, question and answers. And then, John, you go to a gourmet, what is described as a gourmet dinner with all the other patients, served by a private chef. Then the next day you have the operation. You stay, I believe it's 3 days. Now, in a regular hospital, my understanding is that they ask you to stay overnight or perhaps 2. But at the Shouldice Clinic, they insist that you stay a 3rd night. They say it's for safety. And other than that extra day, everything at the Shouldice private hospital is covered by OHIP. I don't know. I tried to find out what the extra day cost. It's not a whole lot. In fact, some people tell me that the gourmet meals that are served are probably better than most restaurant meals and more than make up for the extra charge for the extra day. But if you don't believe in private medicine, if you don't want to or can't pay the extra day's stay, then you can go to the Civic or the General and wait the 6 or 8 months. The option is yours. Most people choose to go to the Shouldice private hospital. The reason that I mention this is that staring us in the face, and everybody must see this. This is the answer, certainly a major answer to the terrible, crumbling healthcare system that we have developed in this country. I mean, let's be very honest. We have established at the Shouldice Clinic a a degree of expertise. One of the reasons that they are so good there is that the average surgeon at the Shouldice Hospital performs about 250 hernia operations every year. The average surgeon at, let's say, the Civic will not likely perform 10 hernia operations in a year. Thus, it's an age of specialization. They have created this specialized system, and it's extreme. And the results are spectacular at the Shouldice Hospital, private hospital, all but one night in the hospital covered by OHIP. So I ask you, if we can do this with hernias, why can't we do this with knee replacements? Why can't there be a private clinic or private hospital where they specialize in knee replacements? A lot of improvements have been made in surgery. Why can't we, for example, get a hip replacement done at a private clinic or a private hospital? Cataract surgery, perhaps even bone replace, bone settings, broken bones. Have a hospital or clinic that deals only with broken bones. All of this relieving the pressure from our hospitals. I mean, uh, let's not stop there. Let me ask you this. Where do you go for an x-ray? You go to a private clinic. Where do you go for a blood test? You go to a private clinic, covered by OHIP in both cases, right? Well, if you can go and get an x-ray at a private clinic, why can't you get an MRI? Why can't you get a PET scan? Why do you have to go to the hospital and wait months for an MRI? Why can't you go tomorrow, just as you can with an x-ray, set up an appointment within the next day or two, and get an MRI at a private clinic? You know what, folks? The idea that somehow or other governments should have a monopoly on healthcare has pretty well destroyed the healthcare system in this country. Excuse me. It's a government monopoly. Well, it really isn't, because doctors are private, dentists are private. What else is chiropractic is private. X-rays are private. Blood tests, private clinic. I'm sure that I could go on. I'm sure you can help me here.
Physiotherapy would be private too, wouldn't it?
Physiotherapy. Thank you, John. Yeah.
Ophthalmology.
I don't know, but what I'm saying is that we already have a number. Where, if we didn't have any of these private clinics, if you had to go to a hospital, only a hospital could perform blood tests or X-rays or et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the hospitals would be absolutely more overwhelmed than they are now. So thank God we've got the private clinic. We need more. But I've never been able to understand why you have to go to, first of all, go to an emergency department. You need a hip and the delays. If you need hip surgery, and it can be very painful, debilitating. Knee surgery, the same thing. Wait months. Not only that, but in order to find out exactly what the problem is, you may have to wait months for an MRI. So you'll wait months for an MRI. They'll get the results, and then you wait months more. You're looking at, in many cases, well over a year wait. But if there was a private clinic like the Shouldice Hospital, you could go and get it all done, the whole thing done within, what, a week? Maybe less. I don't understand. The fact is that insisting on government monopoly healthcare, it's got nothing to do with good medicine. It's got nothing to do with serving the public. It's got to do solely with ideology. The leftists over the years have sold us the myth that somehow or other so-called private health care is going to destroy the healthcare system, when in fact it's the only means we have of rescuing it right now. Of course, of course, there's got to be non-private. The hospitals will still be there. Hopefully, we'll build more. But there are certain specialties, surely, that should be taken out of hospitals, relieve the pressure on them, and it's not just relieving the pressure, but it's allowing surgeons, doctors to specialize and become much more proficient in various procedures, hip and knee replacement, for example. That's just as happened with the Shouldice Hospital. We've got it, folks. Brian Lilly has a very interesting article today in the Sun, and he points out that we've got to we have to look outside the box. For for decades in this province in particular and in this country, except in Quebec where there's plenty of private hospitals, etc. We have insisted that only government monopoly healthcare is allowed. It's we've got if we're going to save the system. I don't know if you've seen the latest figures. I mean, right now, the wait times are in emergency ward are just unacceptable. Surgery unacceptable. In fact, I keep canceling. The MRI. Why do you have to go to a hospital for an MRI? Why can't, if you can get an X-ray? I've already said this before. You get an X-ray at a private clinic. Why can't you get an MRI? It's pure ideology. Nothing more. It's not good medicine. It's pure ideology. We've got to. I hope that Doug Ford has the guts, because I'm going to tell you, if he happens to mention that he's going to allow more private health care, oh, the screams of protest from the leftists will be something to be heard. He will be pounded. The media will pound him, and yet anybody with any kind of a brain will know it's the only way. It's we can't. I'll tell you. You know what else is private that nobody has ever talked about shutting down? The abortion clinics are all private. No, we allow you can go and get an abortion at a private clinic, but I can't get my knee replaced at a private clinic. What the hell is that? It's pure ideology, folks. Not good medicine. It's terrible medicine. It's destroying the medicine. We've got to have the guts to really make the change. There's got to be major change. I tell you, our healthcare system is not going to be saved by little fixing this and adding a few more here and a few more beds. That's not the answer. We've got to have a major change of philosophy. John, what sort of response are we getting here?
We're getting very good response. So let me just, for Doug Ford, if he's going to pitch something like this, it really comes down to the marketing of it. Because I think from what you're saying, people have, and from what I know, people just have a comfort in knowing that this is the hospital system. It's free. It's paid for. The minute you put the word private in front of it, they have this fear that it's going to become the American style of system. What you're proposing, or what you're saying needs to be done then, is that OHIP basically becomes the insurance company that looks after everybody's health care.
Precisely.
So if it is deemed that you need a hernia surgery, yes, you can go to a public hospital and you can wait as long as that takes, or you can go to a private hospital. You have the option, and OHIP will cover it either way. But if you go to the private, there may be a few extras, like your gourmet dinner that, and your extra one-night stay that you may actually be on the hook for. But if you're that uncomfortable, okay.
But so but in the case of Shouldice, you are dealing with the best hernia surgeons in the world.
Sure.
Why? Because they perform about 250 of these operations every year. They become highly skilled. And let me ask you, John, if you had a major procedure, let's say you needed a heart operation.
I've had a hernia operation, by the way.
Okay, but let's maybe get more serious. Let's say you need a valve replacement in your heart.
Right.
Now, would you sooner go to a surgeon who has performs 250 of these operations every year, or someone who has performed maybe 5 or 6? Where would you prefer to go?
Obviously, I want the most experienced person, but
Precisely.
you know what? That's a question I've never even thought about asking.
Well, I mean, that's the situation.
But
That's why
in this system, obviously, that would become, okay, yeah, I need to consider this.
But let me ask my listeners, viewers, do you really care if OHIP covers the cost? Do you really care if it's a private or government run operation? Do you really, really care? Because if you really did care, do you mind going to get an X-ray at a private clinic? Do you mind going to a doctor who is a private operator?
I think as long as it's paid for, people have no problem going there, and that's the marketing challenge.
Then why, if you don't have a problem, why don't we have it? Why do we insist that you've got to go to a hospital with all of the delays and everything else? The hospital should be used for much more serious issues. Surely to God, something that's more. Let's face it, a hip replacement these days is not that serious an operation. Okay, I mean, you're in a hospital for maybe a day or two. Knee replacement maybe 3 days. But what I'm saying is that. Why do we assume that some of these procedures can only be done in a hospital when in fact we can get specialists who are much more adept, much more practiced in some sort of a clinic or a private, whatever you want to call it? Just to show you, what we're talking about here is a system that's very functional, operates very well in the UK, in France, most European countries. It's called a two-tier system. If you use the phrase two-tiered system, the left throws up its hands in horror. But that's what we're talking about. We've got this government-run system that's available. It's long waits and so forth. Or you've got a private system still covered by OHIP, and you can go to that. What's the problem?
It's all in the language being used, Lowell.
It's the mythology. It's just the same as the environmentalists convinced us for a long time that the oil from Alberta was dirty oil. It was a big giant lie. All right, John, let's hear what people have to say.
All right, here's a message to the Blast the Radio page from Karen. She says, I'm crying and frustrated beyond words. She says, back pain due to a motor vehicle accident in 2019. I'm so angry at our system's collapse. Corleen says, nope, don't mind at all. I always ask if private is available because you usually get in sooner. Tom says, nope, I wouldn't care going to a private clinic. John's right. People are under the assumption that we would have to pay at private clinics. Carrie says, if it's covered by OHIP, I will go anywhere. Boo Boo is agreeing with you 100%. And Boo Boo had a comment earlier that I guess years ago, his dad went in for, where is your comment there, Boo Boo? Yeah, my father had hernia surgery at Shouldice. He walked off the table after a couple of hours of surgery and went home. He never had a problem afterward. Absolutely excellent clinic. All right, the number to text and call is 613-413-2217. Lowell, here's a text from someone who says, Lowell, is it possible you can't get an MRI or PET scan privately because what they discover are deep-seated problems that the hospitals can't fix ASAP due to backlogs? X-rays are a little more archaic than what are discovered can be fixed easier and quicker. If a private MRI does discover something that needs a doctor ASAP, you may have to go to the States to get it fixed.
No, it's convoluted, but no, actually, if you go back, I don't know if you remember, but we did in Ontario for a while. We did have private MRI clinics. One of the first things that Dalton McGuinty did was shut the private MRI clinics down. It was pure ideology. Leftist ideology. Oh, this is a private clinic. Meantime, as I say, next door is a private X-ray clinic, but Dalton McGuinty, yes, he did. He shut down. There was a private MRI clinic in Kingston. There was one in Barrie. There may have been others. Those are two that I recall commenting on. He shut down. As a matter of fact, in his campaign, he promised to shut down the private MRI clinics, which he did. Now, let me ask everybody out there. What is good medicine about shutting down MRI clinics? What benefit could there possibly be to patients? They were covered by OHIP. Go ahead, John.
I mean, it's public transit versus a private car, right? It's a choice. All right, Kelly says, I agree as long as it's still covered by OHIP, but it makes sense to have specialized clinics. I think it would be better care and faster wait times. What about dentists? This person asks. NDP wants that to be covered by OHIP, assuming it will still be private.
Precisely.
Yep.
Good point.
Craig
Yep.
says, yes, we should add private healthcare to OHIP. Absolutely. All right, let's go up at the top of my list here. Ann says, the only thing I heard about that clinic is that there is a fee for staying overnight or something, a few $100 or something like that.
Yeah,
The
I've
money-
already said that. At one night,
yeah.
what they do, I'm unclear whether you stay one night or 2 nights at a regular hospital after a hernia. I think it's just one night. At any rate, the Shouldice Clinic has done a lot of research on this, and they said, you know what? If there are going to be problems, they will show up, after a day or two. We want you to stay an extra day here. OHIP won't cover the extra day, even though the Shouldice Clinic hospital says that this is for the public. Makes it safer. But so you have to, but you have a choice. If you don't want to pay the extra day, then don't. But you'll have to wait 6 or 8 months or longer. Go ahead.
Sounds like it'd be worth it just for that gourmet meal. Which, by the way, does the Governor General know about this?
Can you imagine? This is if you go to the Shouldice website, which is very well done, by the way, you will see this that you're at 4:30. You all assembly, and the doctors go through the procedure exactly and tell you what to do after, how to be careful, so forth, and then you all retire to a dining room for a private chef prepared gourmet dinner.
I mean,
Which is covered by I don't know but you don't have to pay for it. Go ahead.
Speaking of great websites, can we talk about the one that Shields has, please?
Oh, of course.
All right.
Yeah, the Shields does have a great website. No matter what it is that you need in the way of appliances or furniture, I very seldom mention that they sell a lot of furniture as well. Now they specialize in appliances. Got a huge warehouse just filled with appliances, but it's all there in the website. It's very easy to use. If I can figure it out, so can you. Believe me. No matter what it is in the price range that you want, the various kinds of brands, sizes. They even in some cases will tell you how much electricity is used in these various appliances, and of course the prices. So you can compare. They're very upfront. Here's the price. Here's the savings. Some very good sales underway right now. Here are our prices. You can compare this with what you'll pay at a box store. You may be very surprised. Shields, they're good. On top of everything else, they got a great little butcher shop, some good T-bone steaks, and they're good people. Shields.ca. Go ahead, John.
OHIP is already underfunded. We cannot put more strains on it so people can get free dental care. You can't get everything you want, just like the Rolling Stones sung. In Ontario, we don't even get what we need.
No, but can we please deal with the topic here? Private health, we have to get the conversation underway. And I'm counting on you people to help me start this. We've got to get over this hurdle about two-tier system, private healthcare. If we're going to save our healthcare system, this is the only answer. It's just not working now. We must allow specialized clinics, specialized hospitals, knee, hip, cataract, bone repair, etc. You may think of some other things as well. Covered by OHIP if you like. Go ahead.
Might just help keep some doctors and nurses in Canada too.
But let's deal with the topic, please, okay?
Yep.
Because we need to start this conversation. We've got to overcome this great fear that the private they're going to destroy we're going to burn the hospitals. It's not true, folks. It's not true. Go ahead, please, John.
All right, to the question, should we add private clinics to our healthcare system? Janine says, absolutely. Craig says, Canada is one of the only countries in the G7 that does not allow private healthcare. Let's go to email, lowell@blasttheradio.com. Rob in Carleton Place writes, I recently went to the UK. I need an MRI, and after waiting 10 months, I decided to look into getting one while I was there. I emailed 3 clinics. I received a response from all 3 in less than 2 hours. I could go online and select a time slot within a couple of days and pay for it on their website. Cost? £199, roughly 320 Canadian dollars. When will Canadians wake up and realize that a wait list is not healthcare?
Well, see, this is one of the great advantages of private healthcare. If you get someone private that's running this, they're just much more innovative. Let's be very honest. Governments can't run anything. If you're going to have the government monopoly of something, it's going to be screwed up, and it's going to be uber expensive. I've often said, so you think that only the government should run healthcare? Do you think the government should only run our food stores? Can you imagine what would happen if all of our food stores were government run?
No thanks.
Ay, 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 ay. But wait a minute. We won't entrust our food to government, but we entrust our bodies. Go ahead, John.
I know you know this, Lowell, but I'm not sure everybody's aware of this. The ambulance ride to a hospital, even in an emergency, is not free. You get an invoice for that.
Yeah, it's I think about what, $15 or something. This is not very much, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but it's not covered under. I mean, it's obviously private to some degree. All right.
Yes.
Chris says, I would love a privatized option. I understand I'm in a privileged enough position to afford some extras. Not everyone is. But as someone who has had to spend an overnight in a storeroom closet in a makeshift bed in emergency while waiting for emergency surgery, we need more healthcare options, and I would be happy to pay a little more for it. Paul says, our medical system is trapped in 1970s ideology. The past 2+ years of COVID obsession has shown the faults in our medical system.
Very true. That's, you know what, you're right. We're stuck in probably a 1960s philosophy. Two-tier, we can't have two-tier medicine, et cetera, et cetera. Let's have the government run everything. Well, if you want the government to run our food stores, let's give it a try, folks. See what happens. Go ahead.
Kelly says she's paid $45 for an ambulance.
Specialized. I may be wrong. It could be that much. You're right. Go ahead.
I seem to remember when I was in grade 6, I broke some ribs thanks to Mandy and Claire. I took Claire's hat and they knocked me into the iceberg. And I got the invoice for it. It was a little more than 15, I think. Okay, YouTube. Boo Boo says specialized clinics are the answer. OHIP is overrun with bureaucracy. Private healthcare is a great option. Let the people decide. Ambulance ride here, says Kirk, in Newfoundland, $150. All right, Craig, in 1980, he says, my ambulance ride from Edelweiss to the
Okay, let's not get stuck. Let's not get stuck. Okay, come on, folks. Come on.
We've made the point. We've made the point.
Yeah, let's deal with the issue here.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready for private health care above and beyond what we have now? It's already, the doctor is private, x-rays, blood. I've gone through all of this. Are you ready for private hospitals or clinics, whatever you want to call them, for hip replacement, knee replacement, cataract surgery, bone setting, etc.? Are you ready for this? Do you care, as long as you get good service? Do you care if it's private or if it's government run? Go ahead, but please, let's address this issue, okay?
All right,
let's not get sidetracked.
I will shoulder the blame for that. I brought up the ambulance thing.
Go ahead.
Moving on. I will ignore those. Here we go. Joshua says, I think it's important to discuss the hospital system, as I read the other day that it's being said various COVID restrictions may need to return, quote, if another wave of COVID-19 threatens the health system. When will people realize the system was threatened, i.e. broken, even without COVID?
Very true. It was broken long before. I had a so-called hallway treatment long before the pandemic. Believe me, an earlier writer talked about being stuck in a closet. I spent some time in a closet. I'm in the closet with 2 other people, and the racks are all filled with medical equipment. I'm in a storage room with medical equipment. Go ahead. And this is before the pandemic. Go ahead, John.
Overwhelmingly, your audience is in favor of this. Leanne says, yes, ready. It's way overdue. Glenn, private clinics are fine with me. Maggie, I have never trusted local hospitals and always opt for private when I can. Yes, we are ready for private clinics, says Tom. Carrie adds that mammogram clinics are also privately run. Coraline says, if we had more private health care, I think that would improve the system. Over to Sean on Facebook. We need more private delivery of health care, private delivery of publicly funded private clinics, not talking about pay-for-service clinics. Colonoscopy clinics apparently are also private. Anne says, I think it's a great idea to have small centers of excellence like Shouldice for specific physical health issues. I think it's the only way to go. The way we are going now is not sustainable going into the future.
That's what we're talking about. Why I keep coming back to this. So you can go to a private clinic for an x-ray, but you can't go to a private clinic for an MRI. You got to go to a hospital, line up with everybody else. Why? What possible medical reason could there be? The medical system is supposed to be run to provide good medicine. What is good medicine about saying you can go to this clinic tomorrow and get an x-ray, but you can't get an MRI? You're going to have to wait 6 months. What's good medicine about that? Can some of you leftists out there please explain that to me? Go ahead, John.
Private versus public hospital. This person says, don't care as long as the health care is available. I have had hallway treatment for weeks and it's not fun. 7-month wait, says Kim, or longer for my CT scan. Won't even give me a date yet. In Newfoundland, Kirk says complete doctor's medical at a clinic was $50 a few years ago, maybe more today. Great idea. Private clinics, as long as they do the same procedure as in a hospital setting. It is not that way with private cataract surgery, says Herzing, etc. Herzing, etc. I discovered to my dismay, otherwise I would have gone that route and happily paid the money to do it. But I want the same procedure as cataract surgery in a hospital. Okay. Let's go to Nancy. She says, when the hospital makes you worse, the head surgeon hides everything with no other options except to return to the same hospital that messed you up. Private care would hopefully be less biased. Okay.
All right. I know that we're out of time. About 3-4 years ago, I addressed a large group of conservatives, local conservatives, down near Gananoque. We had a big conference there, and I was the guest speaker. And I went through a list of things that I felt that Doug Ford had to do. And one of them was, I said, we've got to open up our healthcare system to allow much more private care. I thought in that this was a conservative that I would be booed. I got the loudest applause of all when I said, we've got to open up the system to private healthcare. And I got the biggest applause of everything that I said there. So Doug Ford, and I'm passing this message on to him, and I will pass the message on that most of you have sent today. Doug, we're ready for it, baby. Let's have it. Thank you all. Back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.